Greetings, dear viewers. Anthony on Power Rangers Lost Galaxy fan film with a new episode of the Terra podcast, bringing you episode 340, presented by my Morphin Megaverse Power Rangers Facebook group. Okay, so thinking back to what I said about the Dragonzord video, because not so long ago with, Hasbro putting out all of these old episodes of Power Rangers onto YouTube, you can still watch Mighty Morphin Power Rangers on Netflix if you still have a Netflix account, or if you rather watch Mighty Morphin Power Rangers on the DVDs by Shout Factory. That's your choice. I really was thinking about doing a little discussion video about the Wizard of Deception from the 3-part Return of the Green Ranger story from Season 2. And knowing that, the Wizard of Deception, I've always wanted to do a video on this guy. Specifically, the fact that he was one of the many so-called monsters that was only made exclusive to Power Rangers. He has no kind of Super Sentai counterpart. He's just some monster that they put together just for these 3 episodes of the Green Ranger's return. And yeah, once again, in my yet another MMPR centric discussion in my podcast, that I really wanted to talk about the Wizard of Deception. Wizard of Deception basically was one of those monsters in Power Rangers, although he was not a good one, because when you think about it, what was he really though? Like, what was he really like? But I'll tell you what he was like. He was this strange lizard mask looking monster. And when I look at him, he didn't really have much of an impact on me, or in general with Power Rangers in general, but he did have some impact and some legacy about how, like, with his destruction, that, he came up with an evil duplicate of Tommy as the Green Ranger if he never was the White Ranger afterwards. He was just a Green Ranger, and it seemed that, like, the Wizard of Deception was actually, one of the most sinister villains we had. Although when I look at his design and look at his costume, he was like really nothing basically to me, because while he did exist for these 3 episodes in correlation to the Green Ranger clone of Tom Oliver, and after his destruction, how he had so much of an impact on Tom Oliver and Tommy Oliver both, and stuff like that. And Wizard of Deception, to be honest though, he was one of those monsters that just looked really cheap. Well, actually, speaking of that, when I just look at the guy, he was nothing more, his aesthetic was nothing more of that of, all they did was, cheaply as he was produced, for a monster made only for Power Rangers, up there with, like, reusing a few costumes from monsters before, like Turkey Jerk and Storybook Rangers. But Wizard of Deception, all I did was just get some guy, and by the by, his actor was of that of Tony Oliver, who was one of the many showrunners of Power Rangers from back in the day, and was also the voice of Saba. Well, actually voiced by producer Tony Oliver, but was physically portrayed by an actor that we don't know about. But though, when I look at his design was very cheap and basic. And yeah, it's just some guy in a really cheap looking Halloween costume, Halloween mask with a really bad long wig, something similar to like Tommy Wiseau's hairstyle or something, all wet and greasy like, and long and black. And then get some kind of black cloak and stuff for the outfit, and then some wand that looked like a cheap knockoff of like Maleficent's evil, powerful magic wand of sorts from like Sleeping Beauty. And there you go. And I personally felt that the Wizard of Deception just didn't do me any justice. He just wore me off with his cheap design, his cheap look. Not only that, the reason they did Wizard of Deception was because, again, when they were doing these batch of episodes of the rest of season 2 was, well, again, they, you know, the cast and crew had to shut down production, part of the show's production, to focus on Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie at the time. And I know that, of course, one of the many unused elements of the movie that made it into the show would be, of course, the rat monsters that the Wizard of Deception would bring to life. Those rat monster costumes that was going to be in Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie, but would not be used in the movie because the movie was going to be more in higher quality, well, considerably for its time. And then, so that's why the costumes of the rat monsters would only fit with the TV show's more rather low budget quality, because it actually fit more with the show's quality than with the movie's higher budget, high concept kind of quality for 1995 for the time. And I know Wizard of Deception, you know, he was basically the show's equivalent to Ivan Ooze, but not great. And again, Wizard of Deception was only in 3 episodes, that being Return of the Green Ranger, parts 1 through 3. So how did he come about with, you know, how did he come about? So to top it off though, Wizard of Deception was basically summoned from that of Rita's. He was a creation of Rita's, but she wasn't in good terms with him before. So after some off-screen convincing, Rita used the Ghost of Darkness to summon him to Earth so he can fulfill the goal of bringing back the Green Ranger, because since Tommy became the White Ranger, but Rita had been a bit off-screen. You know, Rita had been gone for almost quite a while from season 2, from the start, when she found out that Tommy was no longer the Green Ranger anymore, and found out that Tommy is now the White Ranger. So she summons the Ghost of Darkness, you know, basically this skull thing, you know, a la Power Rangers is a little fetish of skulls and skeletons, you know, a la Army of Darkness and all, to make the Wizard of Deception. Basically, he would go ahead to proceed of hypnotizing Bulk and Skull to take a bit of Tommy's hair off, so that way the Wizard can go with his plan to do a clone of Tommy when he was just only the Green Ranger. He was just evil, you know, stuff like that. And then once Bulk and Skull were wiped out from the Wizard's evil spell of mind control, then the Tommy clone would go ahead and attack, you know, Tommy currently as the White Ranger. Then the Wizard would go ahead and take his magic wand and send, like, you know, the Rangers. You know, at this point, Rocky, Am, and Aisha was just now starting to know about Tommy as the Green Ranger, because, again, they weren't even around during the first season. But this was, again, an instance of a first for them to witness that there was Tommy as the Green Ranger, because they started noticing that Tommy had his original season 1 color again, with the green bandana and all of that, and having a toothpick, acting like a badass smug bastard. So the Wizard of Deception sends the 5 Rangers into the 1700s and being accused of witchcraft, and then, yeah, it's complicated. So that way the Wizard of Deception would also go ahead and have you know, the Green Ranger fight the White Ranger. But that was actually one of the only things I did like about that 3-parter, was how he had the White Ranger, you know, the Green Ranger, go up toe-to-toe with Tommy as current day White Ranger. But knowing that Tommy, with the state of Tommy's physicality, because, you know, a piece of his hair was ripped off by Bulk and Skull with the scissors, and then have Wizard do such and such. Then Tommy would grow a little weaker, but he felt very disoriented to fight the Green Ranger further as time went on. And then the Green Ranger would go ahead, well, the Wizard's Green Ranger would go ahead and summon the Dragonzord to cause one last time some chaos upon Angel Grove. You know, Tom Oliver, basically, as the Green Ranger, would go into the command center to harass Zordon to make sure he knows who had beaten the Rangers. Because, again, doing all that deja vu from Greenwood Evil again. Because I minded them doing all that callbacks, you know, some slight callbacks to Greenwood Evil, mostly for part 1. A little bit when he entered into the command center again. He had a power coin at least. Then a little bit of part 4 where he was harassing Zordon and Alpha And even if they were reusing stock footage from Greenwood Evil Part 4, with him confronting Zordon and Alpha again. Well, actually, Alpha's stock footage from that episode, and then Zordon just being what he was before he was teleported into an alternate dimension by the Green Ranger originally. And then once again, some reused stock footage, because again, a lot of these later episodes of season 2, one of the things I didn't like is that the multiple episodes of season 2, the remaining episodes, that was because the reason why we had some reuse of stock footage from past episodes and stuff was because the cast was still doing the movie, so it made sense for them to keep using certain stock footage, including we had some new footage of the Dragonzord with the eye pupils and stuff that was barely ever used in season 1 of Mighty Morphin, because I guess it made sense for them to use that footage later on, for a later episode of the Dragonzord. But I know that they did not have the suits for Dragon Caesar or Die Reno for American Power Ranger footage, so they have to make it look like Dragonzord was fighting Thunder Megazord when the Rangers came back from the 1700s, courtesy of Tommy, and then have the Thunderzords go toe to toe with the Thunderzord, go after Dragonzord after Tigerzord was already beaten down to a pulp by Dragonzord, and stuff like that. So they did that, and then So therefore, like, the Wizard was contacted by Lord Zed for an update after some argument between his masters, and he reported to plan on going well with the new Dragonzord strategy because, well, this is a Dragonzord that was under the Wizard's control with Tom as the Green Ranger, and so they did that. Personally though, I feel like the battle overall, like the battle between Tigerzord and Dragonzord, I know that they don't have the costume of Dragonzord, but they did manage to get the Tigerzord suit for American footage for later episodes of MMPR until they would tear that up apart and stuff because they want to move on to the next Sentai and its Zords via its footage. So the Wizard of Deception would be destroyed, and so Tommy managed to kick the magic wand out of the Wizard's hand, kick outside the Wizard, jump Tom, and use it to go back in time, much to the Wizard of Deception's dismay. And then Tommy would go ahead and retrieve the other Ranger safely, and bring them back to the present, basically the 1995 at this point, because they were still filming some episodes in 94, and because again the movie shoot and stuff. Then they would they would use the Dragonzord, the Thunder Megazord would go ahead and fight Dragonzord. But they would eventually just have, Tom would just use the Dragonzord, shut down Dragonzord, and then send it back to the sea. And then with Tom being broken from the evil spell by the Wizard. So we don't know, due to the Wizard of Darkness being reduced to nothing more than a robe. I just feel like, Wizard of Deception, well, that was about it. After that, he just, he was nothing, basically. So I felt like, personally, this guy could have had more lineage in Power Rangers, and even despite his design looked pretty cheap, looking like a monster that you would expect in an episode of Goosebumps, in the Goosebumps TV series, because there was an episode of Goosebumps that had a monster, because I remember I read a book of Goosebumps that had a mask that looked similar to the Wizard of Deception's mask, and it just looked so similar to it. I forgot the name of the Goosebumps book. It had something about some little girl putting on this mask of a green sort of, I don't want to say Green Goblin, it's copyrighted by Marvel and all that, but it was close to the Green Goblin's design from like the first Spider-Man movie, but for a Goosebumps book in the 90s, and it was very reminiscent. And yeah, because Wizard of Deception's design did look like something you would expect out of Goosebumps, but it would still fit into, MMPR's, shtick of doing everything low budget quality because it fit the vibe of the show. And also the fire effects around his face, like, yeah, that stuff was pretty cheap. And yeah, I feel like there was just not much I can say about Wizard of Deception, but though the guy did barely any significance to me, but although he was quite a useful effect to bring back the Green Ranger because that's what fans wanted. Fans of MMPR always wanted to see the Green Ranger go against the White Ranger, because I know that a lot of fans wish that Tommy should have still stayed the Green Ranger regardless of the new him having a new Zord, even if he didn't have a power strong enough to support a new Zord. So that's why the whole Green Ranger clone with Tom Oliver being a thing. But I think Tom was just a clone of Tommy if he just stayed as the Green Ranger. So I don't think there's not much you can say about Tom Oliver in general. But even though he would stay in the 1700s, Angel Grove in the 1700s and stuff. And we don't even know if he has the duplicate of the green power coin still or so. So there's not much I can say about Tom Oliver, period. But Wizard of Deception, however, I found out, according to Ranger Wiki, Wizard of Deception did make his way into the Boom Studios Power Ranger comic universe in issue 22. I haven't read the issue, but check it out for yourself, because I think he had like a cameo in the Boom Studios comic universe. So he actually had some presence there in the comics. So I think that's about it I can say about Wizard of Deception a little bit real quick. Just to say some things about him in discussion. How I feel about the character and, what impact he had on me compared to some other American-made monsters we had in Power Rangers. And I feel like a part of the Wizard of Deception's design also kind of influenced and predated the super demons that... multicolored super demons that Viper would have in Time Force's team up with Lightspeed Rescue, because they also did look very similar though when I go back look at Time for Lightspeed. But anyway, that's my thoughts on the Wizard of Deception. That's all I can say. So what do you guys feel about my discussion on the guy real quick? Because I feel like I just wanted to get something out there, because after watching a lot of episodes of MMPR again in retrospect, yeah, the Wizard of Deception didn't do it for me. And I know that, if they brought Ivan Ooze into the main universe of Power Rangers, but, again, the first MMPR movie's not canon. So, there you go. So let me know what you guys think about my discussion on Wizard of Deception, even though it's a quick rant for 19 minutes. So, that's it. So anyway, be sure to subscribe and drop a like, share this video with your friends. And I'll see you guys next time with a new Power Rangers or Sentai such discussion on the podcast.